Hey, what's up, everybody? Just give me one moment. I want to wish you all a very happy Monday. Apologies for being late. It is about 9:05 p.m. here in New York City. But you know what? Today I really wasn't going to be able to do the live stream anyway, but I thought I'd pop on for a couple minutes. I wanted to check in, see how everybody's doing. Today is June 5th, 2023. It was a pretty big day today, particularly in the technology world. Now, did anybody watch the Apple Development Conference today? Now, we have some interesting product launches, and I want to know what you guys think about the brand new sort of augmented reality headset that Apple is calling the Vision Pro. Now, I was watching some of the demos. It kind of looked cool. I don't know. I think it exceeded my expectations. However, I will say this. I think at a $3,500 price point, I think it's a little steep. I'm not sure how many people are going to be able to, afford to shell out, $3,500 on a headset. Who knows? So we'll talk about that today. What I'm trying to do now is, let me see. I want to drop the link in the chat so you guys can take a look at it if you haven't watched it already.
Apple Vision Pro.
You can kind of hear it playing in the background. Hold on, let me mute it. So let me do that. I'll drop it in the chat. And if you haven't had time, I want you guys to check it out. Okay, because this is pretty significant. And this is the first, I think, brand new product launch for Apple since the Apple Watch. So I think since 2015. So it's very important that we pay attention to this. So we're going to sort of talk about that tonight. But I think, I was on Twitter, and in my view, the person who actually summed this up the most, or I should say who summed this up the best, was actually Casey Neistat. So I want to go to his tweet. Let me pull it up on my computer here. My internet is pretty slow, but if you guys go to Twitter and you look at Casey Neistat's post, essentially what he made about the Vision Pro, I think he was spot on. Let me try one more time. Okay, here it is. So I'll read the tweet and then I'll also link it in the chat. He says it makes sense. Make it perfect. Get the hardware right. Let the enthusiasts cough up $3,500 to be early adopters. As costs come down, volumes go up, all while software gets refined and ready for a truly mass market. And I think it makes sense, right? Because at first glance, I'm like, who is going to buy this thing at $3,500? That's a pretty steep price point. But I think Apple is thinking about it exactly how Casey Neistat puts it, right? The real Apple enthusiasts that want to try new products and services tends to be on a higher income playing field or an income plane. Those are probably the people who are going to be purchasing this particular product, testing out the software, usually first generation hardware, whether it be the first iPhone, the first Apple Watch. I tend to advise to stay away, mainly because there's a lot of glitches, there's a lot of bugs. You really never want to buy the first generation of anything. So I think the true Apple heads, for lack of a better term to call them, I think they're going to be the guinea pigs. They're going to try out, get their hands dirty with the hardware, try to make improvements on the software. But I don't know. I think it's a pretty massive release. Obviously, Tim Cook wants to compete directly with Meta and Mark Zuckerberg on their Quest headset. So I don't know. Anyway, I think it'd be appropriate. We are reporting live from Central Park. So we are actually inside Central Park right now. And we are actually going to be walking to the 5th Avenue Apple Store, the flagship. Taking a walk around, and then maybe we'll double back to Lincoln Center. But it is going to be a short live stream tonight. Again, I wasn't even planning on doing one tonight. Had a pretty late day at the office. So let me go ahead and close my laptop and we will get started. Now, if you want to talk about the equity markets, everything was pretty much flat today. Not a lot of news going on. I mean, S&P 500 trading down about 8 points. Nothing major there. If you look at the DJI, which is the Dow 30, let me see. We were down about 200 points, so less than 1%. And then the NDX, which is the NASDAQ 100, we were pretty much flat. We were up about 9 points. So let me go ahead and close my laptop and we will get started. You know what? Another thing I wanted to mention to you guys. I was reading a really good article today in the Journal, in the Wall Street Journal. Really well written, by the way. And it talks about EVs, right? Electric vehicles, and how pretty much we could almost guarantee that the future of automobiles is going to be EVs, right? But that doesn't come without a cost. And we've been talking about this on the live stream as it relates to the environmental impacts. Let me get my laptop case around my neck. All right, so we've been talking about this as it relates to the environmental impact of manufacturing these EVs, right? Many people think, oh, you know, just because I bought an EV, I'm environmentally friendly and everything's going to be great. Well, not so fast, because in order to refine these metals, particularly nickel, it is very, very carbon intensive. And I think the statistic that was in the Wall Street Journal, if you want to read the article, if you go to my Twitter page, if you follow @WalksWallStreet, I literally just tweeted out the article probably like 20 minutes ago. I believe the manufacturing process to produce one EV emits double the amount of carbon than a traditional internal combustion vehicle. So I think there's a lot of work. I see John Abraham. Good to see you. Bree Grams is here. What's up, Bree? Austin City Limits. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Jonathan Earl is here. What is up? I see Teresa Diaz. Who else we got? Water Blazing is here. First in the chat. Richard Vogel, AM. Brian D is here. Julio Cesar says, I love New York. We love you too. Buy the Book is here. Bill Rowland, John Burke. Dan Zhang, what are your thoughts on the new Apple release, my friend? Are you going to be coughing up the $3,500? Herb, appreciate your $2 donation. Thank you so much for being kind and supporting the channel. Well, since we're standing dead in the center of Central Park, I'll sort of show you guys where we're standing here. Let me just orient the camera. Beautiful night in Central Park. Absolutely fantastic. We have a gorgeous view of New York City's Billionaires Row. So I think we'll just do a quick tour and explanation of what each of these buildings are. So right now we are looking at 432 Park Avenue. I believe the top penthouse is actually on the market. This is the person who purchased the penthouse for, I think, a little less than $100 million a couple of years ago, is a Saudi retail tycoon, Team Alexander. So the Alexander team, formerly with Douglas Elliman, now they are their own broker-dealer, has the listing. An amazing property there. As we pan a little bit over to the right, you have the Steinway Tower, which is the skinniest residential apartment building in the entire world. The address is 111 West 57th Street, and each individual floor is its own separate unit. The views of Central Park are to die for. This is the building that kicked off the entire trend of Billionaires Row. This is 157. This is the building who started it all. This is a Extel development. Really, really unique property. And then as we move over to the right, you have Central Park Tower, which is another development by Extel. The triplex sitting at the top of Central Park Tower is the most expensive residential home on the market in the world. Serhant has the listing. It is selling for $250 million, $250 million. This is 220 Central Park South. Gorgeous, gorgeous building. Now, we did have some news over the Memorial Day weekend. I believe, I'm not sure the exact floor, it didn't say, but the Real Deal is reporting that a condominium unit in 220 Central Park South just went under contract for a whopping $75 million. All right, so with that being said, let's we'll use 432 Park Avenue as our North Star. We're going to beeline it right there and check out the Apple Store on 5th Avenue. Hey, DWG says, I saw the sales video. It's unbelievable, these buildings here. It's one of my favorite places to come in Central Park. You have an amazing view pretty much everywhere. Herbert Daughtry, good to see you, my friend. Thank you for your very generous and kind donation. This is the walking path slash running path slash biking path in Central Park. Really, really nice. It'll essentially take you around all of Central Park. This way is the east side, the other side is the west side. Really, really nice. This is Times Square. You could essentially see all the way down the avenue to Times Square, which is kind of cool. Arsenal fan 13, good to see you. Says, wow, the amenities must be out of this world at that price point. They really are. Pretty much at every single these Billionaires Row buildings. It's amazing. Dan Zank says, I will wait for the SE series of the goggle. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting. Brendan O'Brien says, Tom, what do you think is the best cybersecurity company on AI? Do you believe it's CrowdStrike? I don't. I believe that Palo Alto Networks is the leader in cybersecurity. Now, CrowdStrike is a good company. Zscaler is a good company. But I believe, if I had to bet on one, right, just hypothetically, if I had to bet on one, I would choose Palo Alto Networks, in my view. All right, let me catch up on some of the comments. Hey, Line Sync says, I see Meta's new VR headset is about $449. Presumably the usual case of Apple vastly overcharging. They're happy to pay customers. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Apple has here's the thing. Apple has never been the company to go for the cheapest product, right? Apple never discounts their products for anybody, even if you're buying in bulk, right? So Apple doesn't even discount their iPhones to AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. And they have pretty much some of the largest movers of Apple products, right? Even if you go to a company like CDW that does a ton of hardware business, they don't discount their products for CDW or anybody. And I think Apple has really built that brand and reputation that, listen, we are the best in the business, we do it better than anybody else, and if you want that quality service, you're gonna have to pay up for it. We do not discount anything. And it's actually worked, right? It's actually worked. Now, do I think this price point of $3,500 for this VR headset is worth it right now? Me personally, I won't be buying it just because, I don't know, I'm still a little bit on the fence. I think it's a little bit goofy to wear like a big clunky thing on my head. And you know what's another shocker, as we're outside of the JW Marriott Essex House? Did you guys hear that it only has 2 hours of battery life? I mean, that's gotta change. I'm actually surprised that Apple even put that out to the world, a product that only has 2 hours of battery life. Imagine you're trying to watch a movie, right? And if you've watched the demos on Apple's website, the thing is pretty cool, but you know, a movie is longer than 2 hours. You watch one movie, the whole thing is shot. So I don't know. And the whole battery pack on the side, I think that's gonna get a little bit cumbersome. I don't know, any thoughts there? Yeah, Line Syncs is only too true, no discount from Apple. The old retail mantra of persuading that a higher price equals better quality. Not always the case by any means. Is this Line Sync? Hey, the garlic says, but the technology is incredible though. It was very impressive. I was very, very impressed, to the garlic's point. We'll wait till the big truck goes by. So the garlic also says it's first generation. So you're spot on. Usually the saying goes, you never want to buy the first generation for anything. And this sort of goes along the lines with what Casey Neistat actually tweeted today. If you go to his Twitter page, he's like, it makes perfect sense, right? First generation product, it's priced very, very aggressive, which means the vast majority of people who are probably going to purchase this product are the real big Apple heads. They're going to get their hands dirty with it, they're going to provide feedback, and the software is going to get better and better and better, and then maybe by the second or third generation of this product, the price is probably going to be 25% lower. And that's when it's going to be ready for mass market. I think that's a pretty good theory too. I don't know. I know, Jeffrey says you could also leave it plugged in and use it for all day. But I mean, if you watch the demos, right? People are walking around, they're out, they're on flights. So I think they're pitching it as sort of like a mobile product. Here's another thing, right? Not to get too pessimistic. I would never in a million years buy that $3,500 piece of equipment and walk around a city like New York, Chicago, any major city, right? I mean, somebody's just going to come up and rip that off your face. I don't know. I was thinking about that too, but maybe people will just use it in-house, in office. Who knows? Michael Joseph says it's got a lot of business applications. I think the thing is pretty cool. I just don't think I would buy it yet. Now, so Michael Joseph's point about the business applications, we were briefly talking about the Google Glass, the enterprise version. And there's actually a lot of companies that are using this for training purposes. You know, I was actually working on, selling some of the Google Glass products. And there's a lot of QSR companies. QSR stands for quick service restaurants. In the United States that are using Google Glasses for training, right? So instead of hiring a bunch of trainers, what they do is they provide the trainee in a test kitchen the Google Glasses, and it projects, the AR in front of their face. Turn the deep fryer to this temperature, leave the chicken in the fryer for this amount of time, right? And it's training them on the job, so that's increasing those operational efficiencies there. Boeing, I know, is using it, so potentially Apple will probably spin up some sort of an enterprise sales division for this product to market to big companies. I think that's another possibility. This is the Ritz-Carlton across the street. Beautiful hotel. Jennifer Gala says you can get a replacement battery. It's good that it's outside the device. It makes it way lighter. We will be developing 3D 8K experiences for the Vision Pro. Wow. Imagine that for a moment. 3D 8K experiences. That's amazing. That's awesome. All right, let's cross the street here. Now, in 5 years' time, how many of you will be watching the Walks in Wall Street stream on the Vision Pro? It's sort of like you're immersed in this stream. That's kind of crazy to think about. Just kidding, but maybe that is a reality. Let me turn up the brightness here. Lou T says Axios reported that the product will be aimed at developers who will create content for consumers rather than consumers themselves. They'll probably give it to you, Tom. You know, Lou, you make a good point. And I was reading a piece of research over the weekend, which we briefly talked about. And we also discussed this a little bit yesterday. Now, does anybody remember leading up to, really just up until 2013, I would say up to 2015, Wall Street was very reluctant to assign software multiples to Apple. And there was one analyst in particular that really stuck his neck out to say, listen, Apple is a software company. right? Just like any of the other companies. And it deserves that premium valuation. So you're correct. I believe that the headset is not a hardware play. There's very, very little margins, or the margins are very slim in hardware. Where you have huge, ridiculous, very, very big gross margins is in the software. So maybe the theory is you get people excited about it, you grow a huge developer community to make different software applications and different apps, and you sell that and you take a cut of it. So think about the critical mass, right? We always talk about the TAM. Think about the total addressable market. Now, I don't know if this thing will catch on or not, right? But think about all of the iPhone users in the United States. Let's just say if 4% of them at first start to adopt this Vision Pro, and 2% of the 4% start to purchase, subscription software for the Vision Pro specifically. That could be significant revenue, like very, very significant revenue for Apple. So I don't know. I think, to your point, and I'm going to try to read as many comments as possible, I think you're spot on. I think it's a software play more than anything, because that's where the money is, right? Very, very high gross margins in the software business. Mr. Smith, thank you so much for your very kind donation. Says, hey Tom, would you be okay with me using some of this footage in a music video, please? All video credits will go to you. Yeah, I mean, do whatever you want, my friend. Knock yourself out. Thank you for being here. And hopefully you're having a good day, and thank you for supporting the stream. Michael Joseph says Microsoft will be next with a Windows headset. I mean, I don't know how many competitors there can be in the space. Beautiful beagle right there. You guys see that? That's the kind of dog I have, actually. Mine's obviously, unfortunately, a little bit older now. That's one thing about dogs. They just don't last too long, man. Yeah, Ren 1018. Very good point. So Ren 1018 says App Store is the play. It is the play, for sure. Phil says they need to offer 3D movies in iTunes. That would be cool. All right, let me stand here. Let me catch up on some of the comments. That is the flagship 5th Avenue Apple Store right over there. Eric says Apple will use this to raise the margins on content, not hardware or software, says Eric. Interesting point. Brendan O'Brien says app-based Tesla is a software company. I agree with that. Justin S. says I think the Vision Pro would be better for enterprise users, like people who would use it for remodeling or home furnishing. That would be really freaking cool. Now, man, that's actually a really good use case. Now imagine this, because as you sell ultra luxury real estate, I'll just give you a quick example. It is so expensive for the staging. The staging bills could be thousands upon thousands of dollars to stage these apartments. Now, what Justin S. just said, imagine if, the real estate company invests in a couple of the Vision Pros for Apple. You go all the way to the top of 432 Park Avenue into the apartment you're looking at, and before you get to the apartment, the real estate agent has done its research on your tastes. Maybe the real estate agent, if they're smart, they were to ask the potential buyer to say, hey, send me some photographs of your home right now, right, of your personal art pieces. And then they could work with the graphic designer to film the inside of the apartment, right, and incorporate all of their original furniture, all of their original artwork to be in that apartment already, right? So once you put on the Vision Pro, the customer walks in and they see their couch, right? They see the china cabinet that was passed down for, 2 centuries from grandma and grandpa, right? they see their one-of-a-kind art paintings on the wall. That's actually a really interesting use case. I think you get the comment of the night, my friend. Really good. Wow, I actually may do that. Hey, MJ Boom. Thank you so much for your very kind $5 donation. This is here, Tom. Change I got left from 111 West 57th Street unit purchase. Well, dude, if you got a unit up there, please invite me up. We'll do an impromptu Walks on Wall Street tour of your unit. Congratulations, and thank you for the support. All right, I think we have 4 seconds left. Let's cross. We'll go to the Apple store since it was the developers day. I know J49 says I'll take my apartment furnished. You know, it's a big cost. I think a lot of people don't understand a lot of the costs that are incurred from a lot of these brokers, especially at the ultra luxury level. If you want to furnish one of these billionaire Rose apartments, that's a hefty bill. That is a hefty staging bill, my friend. Hey, Eric says they had Bob Iger talk about the value of the headset to a content creator. That is their market. Interesting. So Bob Iger, the CEO at Disney, I would like to see that. If you have a link to that, could you please put it in the chat? Photos from around New York says IKEA already has an augmented reality feature on their website. I can see it being used by Apple for augmented reality as well. So photos, I've noticed that on Wayfair too. So Wayfair is like an online marketplace for furniture, trades under the ticker symbol W. In my view though, it's really terrible. Right, I'm not trying to be mean to these companies, but I tried it out on Wayfair specifically. It's like very janky, very clunky, but as I'm thinking about the Vision Pro and the demo that they put up on the website, I think that is like the perfect use case, and that'd be really, really interesting. I don't know, obviously anything that Apple puts out is really of better quality than most things. All right, everybody, this is the Apple Store here at 5th Avenue. One of my favorite things about this, as you know, are all of these little outdoor seats, so to speak. But as you walk up, you could actually see directly inside the Apple Store. You could look at all the shoppers, you could look at all the displays. There's an employee walking right there. So if you want to come here to the 5th Avenue flagship, the store is totally underground, right? We'll walk to another one of these portals. I think the further to the back of the store is where they have all the iPhones. So you can see customers shopping. It's kind of cool. Very, very unique space here. Wow, photos from around New York says I cannot stand Apple products. I've never really heard anybody say that, but I respect it. I respected photos. Lou T. Williams says, Tom, as we enter the Apple Store, I am waiting to jump into the high yield savings account when you do. Lou T. Williams, I promise you I'll let you know when I do. Now, I kind of got spooked out of it. I'll actually take you guys inside the Apple Store. I think it'd be appropriate for today. So I'll take you guys in the back entrance. You know, I read an article, it's probably like a hit piece on it, to be honest, but there's been some problems with it. With the Apple's new high yield savings account, there's been many reports of customers not being able to access their funds for whatever reason. So I think I'm gonna wait until they work out those kinks. I don't know. We are now descending into the Apple Store. Oops. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This is on the back side. So you'll be able to see the sort of the core of the Apple Store as we turn right here. It's not too busy. I was actually in here earlier today, and it was pretty busy. But being that it's almost 10 o'clock at night, things have died down a little bit. Kets 42 says the only Apple product I have is the stock. Yeah, you know what's it's funny. I think now that, well, Apple briefly traded to a new all-time record high today. It did reverse quite sharply into the close. But I think with today's close, Apple makes up about 7% of the S&P 500. So chances are, right, if I had to make a bet, almost everybody in this room probably has exposure to the stock, right? If you have a retirement account, if you have a 401k, IRA, chances are you probably inadvertently own the stock, right? If you own the S&P 500, about 7% of that entire index is Apple, which is kind of crazy. The concentration is wild. All right, well, these are some of the MacBook Pros. This is the big core, so this is like the spiral staircase and then the elevator up. We'll walk to the other side and we will exit by the Sherry Netherland. They have some really nice indoor plants here, and they're real, by the way. Hey, Jennifer Gallo, what's up? I know, Line Sync says it looks busy for 10 o'clock at night. That's some good perspective to put on it. You know what? There's actually a lot of people here. Now, I had to come here this morning, and here's another reason why I've pretty much always been bullish on Apple. I had to get a new, like the earphones, right? Not the AirPods, but I had to get new earphones that plug into the Lightning port. It was $23, guys, $23. And I was talking to the guy, and he's like, you know what, we're sold out of all of them on the floor. I'm gonna have to check in the back. And when he comes back, he's like, this is the last one. He's like, you literally bought the last one. So imagine how many incremental sales Apple does on all of their accessories and dongles and things like that. It's definitely a cash cow. But again, like we talked about before, the services business is huge for Apple. All right, guys, let's go back. We're going to go back up into New York City now. J49 says rumbling indictment for Trump this week. You know, I got a funny story for you guys. Actually, so I was walking back from the office today. I'll actually show you. We'll walk to it. So I was walking back from the office, which is now right near 432 Park Avenue. Real quick, I want to show you guys. You see this? This is 53 West 53rd. Another Billionaires Row building. And then across the street you have the Plaza Hotel. Looks really nice. Faith Friends, because can you walk by? Where, if you tell me where it is, if you give me the, oh, I think it's right here. All right, well, since we'll do a quick walk by for you, since we're right here, we'll showcase some of the merchandise in there. All right, anyway, I was coming out of the office, and every day I cut through the Trump Tower, so you don't have to walk all the way around. So for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the Trump Tower is technically public space where anybody could walk through. So I always cut through there. And do you guys know who I ran into today? I ran into Eric Trump. And I said, Eric, what's up? And he's like, hello. And I said, hey, nice to see you. And I gave him a fist bump. That was it. Nice guy. Non-political, okay, guys, stop freaking out. I could hear the blood boiling through the through the stream of people who are not very fond of the Trump family. But look, Eric was a nice guy, right? Look, if I walk down the street and I see former President Barack Obama, I'm giving him a fist bump, okay? And I'm not going to apologize for it. So I'm assuming this is the store. It looks like they have some really nice merchandise here. Wow, 1829. Yeah, I just thought it was cool. I almost couldn't believe it, right? He was coming down the escalator, and I believe he was going to eat lunch in the Trump Grill, which is in the basement. So yeah, cool little factoid there. Well, hopefully you enjoyed that. Well, Faith finds fashion. Looks like you have some good taste in the bags there. But yeah, I mean, guys, that's how I feel. Like, this is the way I put it, right? And you guys know I lean conservative. But if I run into a president of the United States or a former president of the United States, I'm saying hello. I mean, I don't care who it is. That's a significant piece of history, essentially, you're running into, right? A former leader of the free world, right? So that's my rule. If I run into any former president, I'm going to say hello. But obviously, Eric Trump is not a president. But I just thought it was funny. I recognized him. Anyway, so we are now on Madison Avenue. I'm going to make a right tonight. Now, maybe we'll go all the way to the Ed Koch Bridge, which is the 59th Street Bridge, perhaps. I'm not sure how much time we're going to have today for that, but... Hey, Loris, is your live stream always has great quality. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, how do you guys think, and this is a serious question, how do you guys think content like this, right, like a live stream, live walking, live talk show, would play on the Apple Vision Pro? I think that would probably be an amazing use case. Because one of the things in the demos, right, if you go to Apple's website and you look at some of the demos for the Vision Pro, you can go like this and make hand signals, and your whole frame of view is immersed in the screen. So it's literally going to be like you're walking in New York, walking in Miami. It's kind of crazy. I mean, some of the movies are going to be looking like you're at the IMAX, if anybody's ever been to the IMAX. I don't know. I think the technology has a long way to go, but I'm excited and I'm optimistic. I know. Emil Carr says, wow, that would be awesome. Very real. Hey, Ken Brockton says, when they create 3D cameras, it'll be a game changer. Oh, yeah, that's going to be... So Ken, you know what's going to be the real game changer? I'll tell you guys. The real game changer is going to be when they allow, when it's realistic to do these live streams in 4K. That's going to be ridiculous. Okay, right now we do the stream in 1080p. So it looks okay, right? This is like 2014 technology, maybe a little bit before that. Like 2013 HD TV. But can you imagine this live stream in 4K, 60 frames a second? I mean, that would almost be like too crazy. That's what I'm looking forward to. And that will happen. You just got to give it, I'll say this, I think in 7 years, we will have the networks to be able to do streaming in 4K, 60 frames a second. That's going to be nuts. Max's Twitch doesn't allow it. Well, I'm not sure. I think they technically allow it, but we are mobile, right? So it's kind of hard to live stream over a 4G LTE network and have it be 4K. Does that make sense? I mean, that would require not only a ton of battery. I mean, our live streams would probably be 15 minutes if they were done over 4K. But yeah, I mean, technology is going to advance, and I'm optimistic about that for sure. Photos from around New York says apparently these headsets can cause some eye strain, so it'll be interesting to see. That's another concern, right? I mean, literally think about that. We're looking at our phones all day as it is, and now we want to strap one to our face. That could potentially be an issue. I do see that. Kets42 says, I feel like VR gaming hasn't even taken off yet. Now, I'm actually more bullish on the augmented reality than virtual reality, right? So everybody pretty much knows the difference between the two. A virtual reality is like a metaverse experience, like where you're transporting yourself into a different world. I think that's kind of nonsense, a lot of that stuff. However, I think the augmented reality is very useful, where it's projecting useful tools and images in your clear line of sight. I don't think I would want to teleport myself into another reality, but maybe have a device which can project, interesting things in my frame of view, or field of view, I would say. I don't know, we'll see. But that's another thing, right? Because we always talk about there's always going to be a bear case for everything. There's always going to be something to worry about, right? If you consume a lot of these macro guys and girls, it's just like a fear, a never-ending bear case. The world is ending bear case all the time. But the way I sort of explain it is, if the US, let's just say we didn't get this debt ceiling fiasco out of the way, and we actually did default on the debt, right? Which we're not, it's totally in the rearview mirror now, but let's just assume we did. That's not gonna stop developers, entrepreneurs, and people from creating new products and services, right? It's the point that I'm trying to make is there's always gonna be something to be petrified about. There's always gonna be something to be worried about. But that's not going to deter people, entrepreneurs, engineers, from building new products and services, right? Just because, think about it, COVID shut down the entire world. People continued to build. If anything, technology accelerated and advanced. So I would always try to keep that base case, to be aware of the global macro horror show that's going on, but to also be able to see through that as a visionary to say, look, people from all over the world are literally beating down the door to come into the United States for a better life, to go to the best schools in the world, to get an education, to get that job at Apple, to get that job at Meta, to build a new product or service, or maybe to start a company on their own. And regardless of the economic conditions, that innovation will always churn on. So I think it's important during these times specifically to keep that base case in our frame of mind. So we are standing directly under 432 Park Avenue. Extremely, extremely tall building. One of the most luxurious in the city. Destiny N7. This is, where's Apple's AI? They forgot about AI. That's a good question. They didn't forget about it, but I think Tim Cook is playing a little bit of a contrarian pitch, I should say. His sales pitch is different than everybody's, is a little bit contrarian in nature. Did you guys notice, if you were watching the live stream of the developers conference today, the Apple developers conference, AI was not even mentioned once, not one time. But if you go back to all of the earnings reports of Microsoft, of Amazon, of Alphabet, it was like this AI explosion of almost just like pumping the term AI as a buzzword. So the way I took it today from Apple is that they're focused on building real products and services, and they don't need to hype up the audience by throwing out a bunch of keywords like AI. They're just going to build good products and people are going to buy them. So I don't think that means that they're not getting involved. Although I do think in terms of someone like the chatbot stuff and some of the pure play AI, which I guess you can consider Siri as maybe a pure play AI, right, or tool. I mean, Siri is horrible. I mean, I'm just going to be honest. Does anybody here that uses iOS, does anybody actually use Siri and it's functioning? It's not, it's very one-dimensional, I would describe Siri. You could say, hey Siri, set an alarm for 5 o'clock a.m. and it'll do it. But in my experience, if you give Siri commands to open different applications, to set appointments, to make calls, it just doesn't work. It says, oh, I'm sorry, I don't understand that, or it pulls up like a web page. What I'm excited about is a point in time where we will be able to say something along the lines of, hey Siri, could you check the refrigerator, do I have any milk? And Siri will be able to ping to your smart refrigerator. The IoT sensors in the refrigerator will be able to read the milk level and say, oh no, you need a refill on the milk. And then you say, okay Siri, go to Whole Foods website and place an order for a gallon of milk. Boom, it'll be here tomorrow morning. Right, that is like the level that I'm most excited for. And that seems to be right now 1,000 years off, right? Or you could just say, hey Siri, make a reservation for tonight at Take 31, 7 p.m. And the AI just does it, right? Instead of just giving you this jumbled, word salad and giving you a phone number to call, it automatically does it. So I think those things is what I'm most excited about. All right, guys, we are now on Park Avenue. Beautiful Park Avenue here in New York City. John Kelly is here. Hey, John. Good to see you. Michael says, hey, Tom, my wife and I are watching you from Corpus Christi, Texas. Love that. Everything's going good on my end. Hopefully everything is going good on your end as well. Hopefully you had a good Monday. It's a beautiful night here in the city. Demtix says, hey, Tom, how are you? I'm doing good. Doing really good. All right, I'll show you guys 425 Park. This is an example of the Class A beautiful office tower that went up in New York. Yesterday we were at the Hudson Yards. As you can remember, we checked out BlackRock, right? The lobbies of pretty much all the buildings in the Hudson Yards are unbelievable, absolutely gorgeous properties. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a shift from old 1980s, 1970s style offices to these beautiful fortresses of buildings like 425. This is actually home currently to Citadel and Citadel Securities. If you look right here, you can see the Citadel and Citadel Securities insignia. But this is all but temporary, my friends, because Ken Griffin and his team are building their very own megastructure right here on Park Avenue, probably to compete with the likes of Jamie Dimon, because his building is going up a couple blocks this way, which we'll check out tonight since we're here. Hey, Shirley Smiles. This is Tom. I'm watching you from Tennessee. What's up? I'm bummed today because I'm car shopping. Oh dear, tell me they will go down soon. So are you looking for used vehicles or new cars? Because I believe the prices of used vehicles are starting to go down, thank God. Now during the pandemic, we'll wait till this guy goes. During the pandemic, just along with everything else, the prices of used vehicles shot through the roof. I mean, there was even some stories of viewers on Walks on Wall Street saying, hey Tom, I bought my car in 2018, and guess what? I could sell it for more than I paid for it. It was really just bizarre times. So hopefully prices are going to be able to come down. Danilo says, do you think we already have the technology? For instance, automobile companies have concept cars made in 2050. I think just the thing about the concept cars, and I'm not a big auto guy, right? I'm not an expert in any regards on auto OEMs, but the only way I could guess to think about it is, yeah, these concept cars are cool, right? But they're probably not profitable at scale yet, right? In terms of the production cost, how much it's going to make them, the raw materials. That's really the only thing I'd say, maybe. Hey, doctor, thank you so much for your very kind donation. Thank you for supporting the channel. I appreciate you very much. Shirley Smiles says, new or used, I need something reliable and not overpriced. And here's another thing. We were talking about interest rates. Oh, by the way, well, I think we're going to push that out to next stream just because I have to cut the stream short tonight. We were going to talk about the S&P, we're going to talk about the ISM PMIs for the service sector today. We'll talk about that tomorrow because we're going to need a lot of time to really break that down. But we were talking about interest rates, and the average 30-year fixed, I think, is what, 6.88%. Do some research on what the average interest rate is for auto loans. So if you thought, you know, essentially, assuming that most people finance their vehicle, right? Think about that cost. That's huge. I think there was a statistic that came out of Investors Business Daily that showed over the last 3 months, the average monthly payment on a car note exceeded $950 for the first time. Now really think about that for a moment. $950 a month for a car note. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but to me that seems a little steep. That seems a little bit ridiculous. Yeah, Randy the Machine says 12 to 15%. Yeah, that's what you're looking at. This building, 375 Park Avenue, is by far my favorite building in all of New York City. This is called the Seagram Building. We are standing in front of it right now. Ken Glass's new car prices dropping, no more over sticker prices. This is Ken Glass. All right, here's a look at the Seagram Building, my favorite building in New York. Hey, Ryan Beck says, I think it's steep for what that payment is for. Trucks / SUVs seemingly are $70,000 to $80,000, which is nuts. Yeah, I mean, that's really nuts. Now, speaking of cars, speaking of EVs, there was probably one of the best articles that I've read in a while that came out in the Wall Street Journal today. And I tweeted about it, and I think I sent it to some of you guys in direct message. I think this is probably the most important article that any investor or any person that just wants to be involved in the economic environment has to read. And it's all about how the race to really build out and produce electric vehicles and make it not only environmentally sustainable but profitable really relies on one thing right now, and that is how much nickel we can get out of the ground and refine in a sustainable way. So the article is amazing, and what you're seeing right now is, I think, luckily enough for us, some of the most pure nickel that exists in this world is actually in Canada, also in Russia, but additionally Indonesia is huge, and I think last year alone they produced about 85% of the world's nickel that goes into making EV batteries. Now, the process to refine that nickel is very, very environmentally damaging. You need to essentially plow down and destroy parts of the forest. The waste that is a byproduct of the refining process is a big deal. But also, do you guys know who is the #1 Do you know who was the #1 investor in nickel mines over the past 2 years in terms of acquisition and partnering with a lot of the Brazilian nickel mines? It was China. It was China. And if the Western world, particularly the United States, wants to compete with China in that space, this is something I think the US government should be working hand in hand with a lot of auto OEMs like Ford, like Tesla, to say, look, what can we do to build out our own infrastructure, right? Invest in our own nickel mines. Because if you have the majority of the output controlled by the CCP, I don't know about you guys, but I think that's a recipe for disaster. And I'll leave it at that. So, unbelievable article, really, really educational, very informative. And I think every American should take some time to read that article. If you want to check it out, you can just go to Walks Wall Street on Twitter, and it's the last thing that I tweeted. You know, Brendan O'Brien, I saw that too. Oh, let me see. Brendan O'Brien says China is also eyeing Afghanistan. I read something like that as well. Mark Francis 076, what's up, Mark? Says 1/3 copper in power lines, 1/3 in landfills, 1/3 in mines. We are running out. Now, didn't Elon Musk say on the last earnings call? Does anybody remember this? It may have been Elon Musk, or it may have been somebody else that was high up in the company. But anyway, you get the point. They were literally begging and pleading with not only investors, but private entities and individuals. They're like, please, somebody, start mining nickel. We will be, your #1 customers, right? So if you think that the financial risk to starting this business is steep, just know that you'll always have a customer. They were sort of like pleading to say, we need this in order to produce batteries. So the demand is there. The demand for nickel and a lot of these rare earths and precious metals are at all-time highs. Now, another thing it said in the article, which was very interesting to me, is that Ford specifically, and Tesla specifically, over the last couple of years, due to pressure from environmental groups, environmentalists, and social advocacy groups, changed the way they actually manufacture their batteries. And this was interesting to me because we were talking about this exact problem as it relates to cobalt. So prior to these changes, one of the most important, I would say, ingredients, one of the most important rare earths that go into making these batteries for the EVs is cobalt. Now, the problem is the vast majority of the world's cobalt deposits reside in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC. And there's been books written about this, there's been many documentary series about this. I think a book actually just came out about this, where the Western world's environmental goals are being subsidized, or were, by child labor and slave labor in the Democratic Republic of Congo in these cobalt mines. And it was really, really disgusting. So from that pushback, they actually have changed the makeup in a lot of these batteries. But still, I mean, nickel still pollutes a lot. I think the article said to manufacture one EV, it gives off 3 times the amount of carbon than it does to manufacture one traditional internal combustion engine vehicle. However, if you drive the EV for 2 years, the payback, more than overcompensates. So I don't know, I think we should be aware of that as a country, right? I think a lot of politicians specifically, they just like to gaslight, if you haven't noticed, on both sides. But they'll say, oh my gosh, we need to be all this green stuff. We need to have solar panels this, wind energy this, we need to have EVs this. And they don't understand the supply chain. They don't understand what goes into it. Just because it may be all green here What about the countries where, we're putting a lot of pressure on them to dig up a lot of these rare earths and raw materials? That's polluting like crazy. So we need to sort of understand the supply chain a little bit better and be a little bit more conscious about where we're getting these rare earths or metals, if you will. All right, this is the Cause statue, 280 Park Avenue. This is where we just were, everybody. That is the very top of 425 Park. Yeah, Ketz 42 says Cause, very beautiful. Arsenal Fan 13 says Tom, Siddhartha Kara, author of the book Cobalt Red, went on the JRE podcast a few months back. You should check it out when you get the time. Arsenal Fan, I think that's actually what we were referring to, and you're 100% spot on. If you have the link to the JRE podcast, please put it in the chat. I think it's important for everybody who's watching the stream to check it out and understand. But you're right, thank you for that. Now, here we are at Jamie Dimon's soon-to-be world headquarters. This is 270 Park Avenue, and this is going to be the home of JP Morgan Chase. Yeah, the Austin Tennis is Tommy, you're still learning Korean these days. I am. I'm actually getting a little bit better. But yeah, I am very, very still committed to becoming fluent, I should say. But it's still a work in progress. But you know what? I think they're doing a pretty good job. They're already putting some of the glass windows on the outside of the structure, which looks pretty good. Hey, Bernard Conte says, good evening, Tom from Wisconsin. What's up, Bernard? Always a pleasure to see you. We're just waiting to cross at Park Avenue. Abdullah, what's up? I don't know. Justin says, when is the new office supposed to open? I think early 2024. Yes, Ryan Beck, 안녕하세요. 이름이 뭐예요? Jonah Meguk Saram이에요. Hey, retired in Florida. What's up? Says, thanks, Tom. Your opinion, how does reinstatement of student loans affect Gen Z and millennial spending habits and culture in general? It's another really good point, retired in Florida. So what retired in Florida is alluding to is the debt deal. I'll just call it the debt deal that was passed by President Joe Biden and Speaker McCarthy. I believe once this is signed into law, all of the student loans that were in forbearance, right? So think about during the pandemic, the government essentially put a blanket-wide, national-wide forbearance on student loan payments. So from the pandemic all the way up till right now, people weren't paying their student loan payments. In addition to that, I believe the interest on those loans were not accruing. Does that make sense? So in my view, right, if I had student loans, which thankfully, thank God, I thank God every day that I don't have any student loans. But if I did, what I would be doing during the pandemic, knowing that there was no interest accruing, I would just pay off all the student loans. If anything, I would be making double and triple payments during this forbearance period because you're not paying any interest. Every single payment you make is going towards the principal. I mean, that's a sweetheart of a deal. But unfortunately, I don't think many people did that. Hopefully some people did. Now, the Wall Street Journal, the Barron's was reporting this weekend that the median student loan balance in the United States today is a hair under $20,000. I think it's $19,620 to be exact. And the median student loan payment per month, I believe, is something like, what was it, $280 or something like that? It's between $280 and $500. I forget the exact statistic. But if that goes back into effect, okay, so Photos Around New York says September 1st, 2023 the interest restarts. Thank you for that. Okay, so the 1st of September, this is going to start up again. I think that's absolutely going to impact spending habits. Because, I mean, if you wake up one day and you're like, oh man, rude awakening, I now have to start paying $250 a month again. I think that's going to trigger a big mental shift for a lot of people to say, all right, I need to start getting serious about my finances. And just think about all the debt that people accrued during COVID as well. But I don't know, I'm more interested in what you guys think, because chances are, I mean, we probably have, 800 people, 800 viewers in the chat. I can't see my screen's broken. I'm guessing some of you either have student loans or know people with student loans. Maybe your kids have student loans. What is your take on the forbearance, I should say? And this is the Hemsley building, 230 Park Avenue. Hey, Ryan Beck says, I would assume the same demographic is already using leverage/credit and will establish payment programs with the government. Interesting thought there. Hey D, what's up? Hey, Lila says, I had been making my payments, but they sent the money back to me. Really? Really? Wow. That's strange. So you were making your student loan payments, but they were mailing your payments back to you? Huh, I don't know. That's weird. Ken Brockton says, Tom, on a positive note, maybe the decrease in economic spending and resulting slowing the economy might prevent some job losses. Maybe, or maybe it'll help bring inflation down a little bit, right? Hey, MBA Elias, student loan debt is like a tax. Cash could be used elsewhere in the economy. True. All right, let me catch up on some more of these comments here. I feel like I've been slacking on reading the comments tonight. Randy the Machine says they probably used the money to buy cars, maybe. Prodman says, wait, when are the payments going to become due? I mean, according to photos from around New York, September 1st. I don't know the exact date, though. Mel says, I have so much student loan debt. If they would just eliminate the interest, I would be happy. Yeah, I mean, I'd negotiate that hard. But, again, I think you guys know my take on student loans. I think that's the only type of debt that you can't declare bankruptcy on. So it's sort of like if you have it, you have it. Hey, Blues Writer, thank you so much for your very kind donation. This is seed money for Tom's new phone without broken screen fund. Thank you, thank you, Blues Writer. I appreciate you very much. Now, in all fairness, the phone's not broken. I think it's the software I'm using. So we use, but it's okay. Hey, Hawaii, what's up? Says good night, Tom and everybody. I have to run. Sorry if I repeated myself prior. No worries. Hawaii, always appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for joining us. And have a very, very happy Tuesday. Mustafa, good to see you. Krog Dog says, Tom, yeah, because they were using that forbearance money to secure more long-term debt at a super low rate. Hopefully not. But Krog Dog, good to see you. I'll take you guys into Grand Central Station. We haven't been here in a long time. We'll go around this side. Actually, no, we'll go this side. It's a little bit quieter here. There's too many people on the other side, from what I've noticed. Oh, the Capitol Grill is coming here. That's cool. So there's a Capitol Grill near Wall Street, and there's a Capitol Grill right as you're walking over the bridge from Brickell into downtown Miami. All right, now this is 200 Park Avenue, and we are going to go inside Grand Central Terminal. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave us a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you are new. We always try to start these streams at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So if you're enjoying them, feel free to click the subscribe button and join us again at a later time. Hey, Lauren Peters says, hello, Tom, good evening, welcome. Meld says, I'm using my inside voice. Yes. Because I feel like I automatically have to project my voice when I'm on the street because there's a million things happening. You have jackhammers going off, people are clanging and banging on the horns, taxi cabs, people are freaking out. And it's like a different world coming inside, isolating you from all the craziness of New York City life. Okay, we are officially here at Grand Central Station. I think this is probably the most beautiful train station in the United States by far. Bonko says I have been paying, or I've been making payments online and it has been accepted. I believe they are going to be collecting interest from October 22. Well, I mean, at least if you've been making the payments diligently since the pandemic, you've probably been able to chunk a lot of that debt down, which is really good. Because this is what a lot of people don't understand. And this is the biggest problem I have with banks and with student loans and in the mortgage business particularly. This is my biggest gripe with it. They don't do a good enough job with educating the public about it, right? About how, an amortization calculator works, right? And I know technically it's not their job to do that, and people should, kind of do their own research and educate themselves about it. But I don't know, if I was a banker or a mortgage broker, I would feel a duty and obligation to make sure clients understand things. So for example, I mean, if let's say you buy a house, right, and you get a regular conventional mortgage, 30-year fixed, a lot of people don't understand, you'd be surprised, that, well, they don't understand how to read the amortization calculator. And the way an amortization calculator works, particularly in the first 5 years of your mortgage payments, 80% of your payment is made in interest, not principal. So let's say if your mortgage payment is $1,900 a month, right? Your interest payment, assuming you got a fixed rate mortgage, will always stay consistent. But as you move further down the line in the amortization schedule, more of your payment is being made towards the principal, right? So the first year of you making payments on your mortgage, I mean, you have pretty much no equity built in the first couple of years. That's why it's always good to advise that you should probably make double payments or as much as you can in the first couple of years to jump you down that amortization schedule so more of your payment goes towards the principal. It's the same with student loans. I mean, a lot of people's student loans, I've talked to people where they've been making payments, right, on time, but their balance is actually now higher than when they originally took out the loan because the interest just keeps compounding and compounding and compounding, right? And I think a lot of people don't understand that. So that is definitely one of my biggest gripes with the banking industry. Again, I mean, it makes the banks mega bucks, right? But I think it's potentially a little bit of a an ethics issue in my view. Hey, out and about, what's up? Good to see you. Hey, MBA Elias, this is Finance 101 should be mandatory starting in 6th grade and continue through middle school. I agree with that. I'll tell you a funny story. And out and about, yeah, we'll walk upstairs so you can see the view from up there. Out and about is our moderator from Toronto, Canada. Good to see you. So I never really did well in school. So I was in, well, the way it worked in my high school was if you were stupid, you would take a class called business math, right? That was like the stigma in the school. So when all the kids, it would be like me and a group of 12 other kids, we would walk into business math and all the kids would, bust their balls about it, in like a fun way, in like a funny way. But looking back on my high school experience, the most valuable class I actually took was that business math class. We literally learned how to do taxes in there. We learned how to write out checks. We learned how to analyze a balance sheet. We learned how to look at an income statement. And you know what's the crazy thing? When I graduated high school, and this was a million years ago, I graduated high school in 2014? They canceled the class due to low enrollment, right? Because business math, that's what it was called. The stigma around it was if you're an idiot and you can't take, AP Calc, you cop out and you take business math. But I thought the class was awesome. We would watch Shark Tank. We would do mock entrepreneurial Shark Tank pitches in front of the class. It was awesome. We had a stock market competition, which obviously I loved. We built an actual stock portfolio. It was cool. But that was the stigma. It was that if you took that, you were like a bottom of the barrel idiot. Yeah, and then they canceled the course. So, okay, guys, this is the Campbell Bar, which is such a unique experience. I would suggest if you're coming to New York the first time for business dealings and you really want to impress a client, you really want to, take a client to a place where it's going to start a very, very cool conversation, take them to the Campbell apartment. You will not be disappointed. Whichever deal you're trying to close, you're going to close it if you take him or her or whatever here. 15 Vanderbilt Avenue. It is so beautiful inside. If you go to Google Images, just Google Campbell Apartments / Campbell Bar, and it is absolutely gorgeous on the inside. Yeah, out and about. I've been there a couple times. I want to say 3 Christmases ago. Well, let's just say this, before the pandemic, because I think this was actually closed for a time during the pandemic. So a year before, a client that I did some consulting with had their holiday party there, and it was awesome. They had a professional violinist, they had a professional cello player in there. It was amazing, amazing. Now, if you go there, it is overpriced. Obviously, this is New York City, so just be forewarned there. But look, if you're on vacation or you're taking out a client, or I don't know, maybe you're going on a date or something, I think it's worth it. It's like double the price of everything else, but for one time, it's all right. Hey, Road Dog 41, good to see you. All right, so we are now walking back further into Midtown. You can see Salesforce Tower in the distance, ticker symbol CRM. But I think this is the best part of the view here. You have the best Art Deco building in the city, the Chrysler Building. Yeah, John says, hey Tom, happy D-Day Eve, Operation Overlord, June 6, 1944. So I got an interesting story for you guys. So one of my best friends from college, after college he enlisted in the Air Force, and he's in a Special Forces division. It's called TACP, so TACP. It's sort of like the Navy SEALs of the Air Force. I guess that's how you could explain it. So I believe tomorrow, right, is the anniversary of D-Day, right? June 6, 1944. And he's actually in Normandy now. He's in France, and he's going to be doing like an honorable parachuting or paratrooping exercise onto one of the beaches. And I think it's going to be televised. So if you see it on the morning news, he is one of those paratroopers that are going to be doing that. So that's cool. Anyway, all right, let's cross here outside of the PwC building. Yeah, the city does look clean today, doesn't it? Aside from the mounds of garbage over there, I think it looks pretty good. Yes, Scary, the original tallest building in New York. We'll go this way so we can avoid Jay-Z. Hey, Melissa 2087, good to see you. Ah, very cool. Photos around New York. This is one of my mentors, was an Army Ranger, part of the paratrooping division. Awesome. Love that. Yeah, I mean, I think that my biggest criticism of the city, you guys know, is it's dirty, right? I'm not gonna lie, it's dirty. Especially when I go back to Miami and walk around Brickell, walk around downtown Miami, walk around North Beach. I don't get it. I don't understand how they can keep it so clean down there. I just don't get it. The mayor in New York City needs to do some consulting with the mayor of Miami and say, look, man, how do you keep it so clean? How do you do it? Right? I love New York, but it's just some constructive criticism. Now, we are trying to move things in the right direction, because right now, everybody just throws their trash on the sidewalk, right? It goes all the way down the street. And the city is trying to implement, I think it's a pilot program, they're trying to implement enclosed garbage bins. So hopefully that'll help. This is One Vanderbilt we're looking at right now. And then we are right across the street from the Stephen Schwarzman building. So if you think about leverage buyouts or LBOs, this is pretty much the Mac Daddy, Stephen Schwarzman, Blackstone. Now, if you're visiting New York and you are a big finance and business geek like I am, take a trip into the New York Public Library and go into the reading room. So the reading room inside the New York Public Library is where they keep all of their rare books. You're not allowed to take them out. You could take them out, but you have to sit there and read them. So you could actually come here and make an appointment to read one of the original copies of Seth Klarman's Margin of Safety. So if you go to the New York Public Library's website, you try to find the link to where it says reading room and search for the book Margin of Safety by Seth Klarman. Now, he runs a hedge fund here in New York City called Baupost Capital. Very successful. He's one of the most successful value investors, probably after Warren Buffett. And the book was published with only 5,000 copies. You can get the PDF for free online, right? If you want to purchase an original, it's going to cost you a couple $1,000s. Or if you want to have a really nice experience and read in just an amazing environment, come here. They have a copy. The original copy is right within those doors. Yeah, buy the books. It's one amazing library. It was the highlight of my New York City trip. It's an unbelievable place. Now, I'm a little bit disappointed because the city, we have a really, really horrible budget deficit. I think you guys know that. And one of the services that they're probably going to cut is the library. So instead of being open 6 days a week, it's probably going to go to 5 days a week, which I think is probably the worst thing to cut, in my opinion. I don't want to get too political, but the city has seen an uptick in crime. So the last thing you want to cut is an educational institution where people of, a lower income that generally suffers from a lot of this crime can go to learn and educate themselves for free to get better job opportunities, to get into a good college, right? So I think that's probably the worst thing on the list to cut is free educational institutions, particularly like this where it's a space where you can go and escape. There's a lot, especially in some of the outer boroughs, there's a lot of rough neighborhoods. I think the New York public library system is so critical to the development of those communities, and to cut funding for that, I think is just probably the worst idea ever, in my view. If anything, you should extend the hours and run like advertising campaigns and just try to attract more people to get the free resources, not say, we're going to close them down. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents. I mean, all of the data shows, right? I think there was an interesting PwC study about this, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and there's direct correlation between the level of education and your income and your job prospects and the level of crime in those different communities. So the more we can provide free resources and tools for people to better their lives, well, naturally crime would go down. If you have a good job and you're making a good salary, there's no need for you to steal something. There's no need for you to commit a crime. So, I don't know, that's my critique of the night. Now, speaking of free resources, look at this. Adjacent to the flagship Fifth Avenue New York Public Library, Stephen Schwarzman building, which is right here, if you come adjacent here, I want you guys to go inside, take the elevator to the 5th floor. Now, the 5th floor is the International Business Center, where you could actually use the Bloomberg terminals for free. Okay, that's a little bit of a tip. Hopefully not too many people are hearing this, but Bloomberg terminals pretty much go for $2,500 a month. And it is the resource that all Wall Street institutions, from family offices to hedge funds to investment banks, use for data. Also consulting firms and the like. And if you want to have access to that for free, you're more than welcome to come here. Just take the elevator to the 5th floor and you could play around on the Bloomberg terminals and take even courses they offer. They offer free classes to show you how to use these Bloomberg terminals. I was actually thinking about maybe, I don't think they do this, but I would definitely be a volunteer to show people how to use it, give like a little demonstration course of how to use these terminals, but I think you have to have some sort of criteria to do that. Hey, Bree Grams, good to see you. Says thanks for the great stream as always. Thank you, Bree, for being here as always. Hopefully you had a good weekend. Wads Banks says, what about Bernie Madoff? What about him? What about him? Wow, Dan S. says, my high school has 2 Bloomberg terminals. Jesus. I would kill if my high school had 2 Bloomberg terminals back in the day. That's good, man. That's awesome. All right, let me catch up on some of the comments. Hey, vote for cakes is whatever the cost of our libraries. The price is cheap compared to that of an ignorant nation. Well, that's a really good quote. I haven't heard that one. I'm going to take a screenshot of that. That's funny. It's true. Edward O says, Tom, do you believe in the paranormal? Not really. Not really. Guys, this is the Bryant Park Grill. Absolutely beautiful, especially at night. It's right behind the Stephen Schwartzman building. We'll see if Bryant Park is still open. We'll do a quick walk around, but I just want to preface something for tomorrow night's live stream. So today, the Institute for Supply Management released the services PMI. Last week, on the first business day of the month, the Institute for Supply Management released the manufacturing PMIs. So as we know, manufacturing activity in the United States has been contracting now for 7 months. You could say we are in a manufacturing recession. But one of the things that's been propping up the US economy and the markets, if you want to talk about the equity markets, is the service side of the economy. Service sector in the US has been very resilient, mainly because we've been having really good job growth and really good income growth, right? Let's see if we can go in. I think they're just closing it, but we'll try to scoot past this gentleman. Last week we got non-farm payrolls, 339,000 jobs added in the U.S. economy. Although unemployment did tick up from 3.4% to 3.7%. We got the JOLTS report out, which showed that in the United States there's 10.1 million jobs available. That is up from about 9.1 million from last month. So wage growth is up, job growth remains robust, so that naturally translates to a healthy service sector. If consumers are making money and consumers are employed, well, they're probably going to spend it. So tomorrow we're going to be doing a deep dive into the services report from the Institute for Supply Management. If you want to get a little bit ahead of the curve, all you got to do is go to the Institute for Supply Management's website, and you could have access to the report for free. So maybe you'll be a little bit ahead of the curve when we talk about it tomorrow night. We are in Bryant Park. This is the Bryant Park lawn. You might be wondering what they're setting up over here outside of the Bank of America Tower. This is called the Summer Stage. So in a few weeks' time, there's going to be musical performances, there's going to be movies, and it's an awesome thing to do in New York in the summer, right? You could bring a picnic, blanket, you could bring lawn chairs, you could sit out on the beautiful lawn overlooking the Bank of America Tower and Salesforce Tower and enjoy some live music or watch a movie. You might as well do a quick walk around the entire perimeter. Looks like there's another stage going up here. Now, if you pull up another browser in YouTube and you type in Bryant Park live camera, you'll actually be able to see us right here doing the stream. You see those cameras? That's the Bryant Park live stream, 24/7, 365. So if you want to say hello, we are right there. This is the monument of William Cullen Bryant. Eric Linman, you're correct. That is, I think it's like a $50,000 bathroom, isn't it? Right here at Bryant Park. We'll head that way anyway. That's where I got to go back. You could even see a little bit of the H&M building through there. I know, Big Brother's also saying hello. That's another thing that's very perplexing to me about crime in a big city like New York. Because literally, guys, you cannot walk a block in Manhattan without being on camera. I mean, that's just the truth. Whether you agree with it or not, that's the truth, right? But I think it's gotten to a point where sometimes just people don't care, right? They'd just rather do it and they don't care about the repercussions of getting caught. I mean, I wouldn't even think twice about committing a crime in this city. Your face would be plastered all over the place because there's cameras all over the place. Anyway, as we walk down a little bit further into Bryant Park, this is probably going to be one of the best views of the Empire State Building you're ever going to see. Well, let me make sure my battery's not going to die on us. Yeah, Mark Francis 076 says all big cities have cameras, and I think it's going to get even more creepy as we progress, especially with AI, right? We talked about AI and augmented reality, virtual reality a lot tonight, being that Apple released their VR goggles. There's a lot of facial recognition stuff. Look at that, gorgeous view of the Empire State Building. I think I told you guys this before, but I was sitting in on a pitch. It was a VC-backed company, and essentially what their company does, they're in the security business, right? So I'll give you a use case of what they used in the pitch, okay? So let's say you walk into Walmart or Target, a big box store. And one of the problems that's been happening right now is a lot of retail theft. But many people don't know this. In the employee handbook of a lot of these corporations, you're not allowed to commandeer the thief, right? You have to let him go because, let's say, God forbid, an employee chases after a guy who's walking out of Target with a $1,000 TV. And let's say if that employee gets punched in the face and they get hurt, well, guess who's liable for that? And guess who's going to get sued? It's not the criminal, it's the company. Target is going to get sued for that, right? So that is why a lot of times you'll see on the news, these clickbait articles that say, employees that are trying to deter shoplifting gets fired, right? When they were trying to do the right thing. But that's the reason why. It's a huge liability for these corporations. So this particular company that I was sitting in on a pitch for, it's essentially an AI version. I'm blanking on the name. I had a long day today, but what is the name? And maybe some of you guys could help me out in the chat. What is the name of the security that's in the stores? It's not. I don't know why I'm saying PIs. It's not private investigators. Loss prevention. There we go. Sorry about that. So it's essentially an AI loss prevention where there's going to be cameras all over the stores that will be able to have facial recognition software that will be able to essentially look up in any database if you have any crime records and literally send you a bill for what you stole. And it's crazy. And this is going to revolutionize the loss prevention industry because they'll just let you walk out with whatever you stole, and then you'll either get a bill in the mail or months later, assuming that you continue to shoplift, as the amount of the theft adds up to over whatever the limit is for a misdemeanor or a felony, a cop's just going to show up at your house with an arrest warrant and say, hey pal, over the past 5 months you stole $20,000 worth of stuff from Target. We have you all on facial recognition software. Here's your arrest warrant. We're taking you in now, and you're going to get sentenced. Which is wild, but that's what's going to happen. So, yeah, and they're doing this in a lot of casinos now too. So, assuming you get kicked out of a casino or something on the strip, and you try to, you think that the security guard's going to forget about you in, let's say, 2 months, and then you try to go back to that same casino, not going to happen. The facial recognition software is going to pick you up, and then the bodyguards are going to throw you out of there again. It was an awesome company. Great pitch, by the way. But that's going to be happening a lot. All right, so this is West 40th Street. We're coming up on the Bank of China. There's actually a really good coffee shop coming up to the right. I don't know, but what do you guys think about that type of technology? Do you think that's going to be a net positive for the world? Do you think that's a little bit too invasive? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Hey, Sean D, what's up? Victor says, excellent, it's great news. Good to see you, Victor. Here's the Bank of China. Ryan Beck says, I wish they'd do that for the arsonists, those people who destroyed property during the riots. That would be very helpful too. That's a good point. NBA Elias says, Tom, they're already using it on toll bridges, no more toll takers. That's true. Now, it's a little bit easier to do it on bridges and tunnels, right? Because they just snap a photo of your license plate, which is still great. It's very convenient. But they're going to be able to do facial recognition. That is wild to me. So, I mean, don't even think about stealing anything at Walmart or anywhere, because you're on camera and your face is going to go into a database. So, yeah, so Keith says if you're doing nothing wrong, you have no sweat for the cameras. Yeah, I mean, to play devil's advocate, some people think it's a little bit invasive to be doing that, which I could see a point, but wow, Eric says most police cars in the United States have automated license plates readers as well. Yeah, I'm sure the NYPD has more resources than some militaries across the world. And I mean, rightfully so, right? It's the world's number one terror target still. So we need all the resources we can get. Now, speaking of, and then we got to cut the stream. We've ran way over time. I was only supposed to do a 1 hour live stream tonight. But I get carried away when I'm chatting with you guys. I appreciate the conversations. I look forward to doing these live streams every night. But the last thing I'll say is it was another really good article in the Journal today about changing trends in terms of banking. Now, we've talked about this before of CBDCs, right, central bank digital currencies, and people are very resisting of that, right? People don't want digital currency. But here's a stat that just came out. I think 78% of people are more comfortable banking online than they are going into a physical store. And last year, there's been more physical retail branch locations. So I'm talking about like a Chase, a Bank of America, like a retail bank, right? Closing down than ever before. And if you think that number is 78% today, who are more comfortable transacting and doing banking online, what do you think that's going to be in 2060? And so I made a little bit of a funny tweet on Twitter. And I said, you know, I really believe that when I'm a grandfather, right, let's say when I'm 80 years old, I'm going to be telling my grandkids, you know, funny stories about, did you know back in the day we used to have to go inside these buildings and pull out physical paper notes so we can go into another store and trade them for goods and services? And the kids are going to be looking at us like we have three heads. I'm really convinced about that. They're going to be like, wait, what? You had to get physical pieces of paper and coins and trade them with each other for goods and services? That's insane. It's going to be the same thing, you know, way, way, way back in the day. Go back hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years when I would trade you some cattle for some milk or some eggs. Right, the barter system. I think this is just a natural progression of the way we transact in currency. So, for those people that are not, that are resistant of the digital transformation, I would argue it's already here. I mean, my argument has been, you know, if you think about the money supply, so let's talk about circulating supply of money. A lot of people don't know this, but there's not enough physical bills and physical coins to cover all of the circulating supply of currency. Currency is just a database, right? Money is just a database, digits on a screen. It's physically not real. Money is a concept. So I think over the next few years, the percentage of the populace who are using physical bills and coins and writing checks, that's going to continue to go to zero in my view. So that's sort of my prediction. I know NBA Elias, the kids will also ask, what is cash? What is that? John says exactly. TK Porsche says cash and paper money and coin is less than 5% of the total money supply. That is true. And a lot of people say this, right, to sort of play devil's advocate. They're like, we don't want digitalized currency, right? And I'm not talking about cryptocurrencies when I say digitalized currencies. I'm talking about a digital dollar, right? A digital yuan, a digital yen, a digital pound. They're like, we don't want that digital because the government could just turn off my spending power. They could literally just turn off my bank account. Well, this is what I'd have to say to that. I'd say, is it a risk? Of course, it is a risk. And I think it's a real risk. But the risk is already here. If you don't think the government could turn you off overnight, right now, you're sadly mistaken, okay? The government, whether you like it or not, it knows everything about you. It knows everything you spend money on. And it's not supposed to, but it does. I mean, if you think about all of the stuff, and I won't get too deep in the weeds, but just think about all the stuff that came out in the Snowden files, right, with Edward Snowden. That's only like a tip of the iceberg of what the government does in terms of surveillance. So I think that's just something we're going to have to deal with. Yeah, Matthew M., maybe apples and oranges. Eric says, look at China. The social credit score system will prevent you from traveling or buying food. Yeah, I mean, again, it's a big risk, but I think that has to do more with the structure of government, right? In China, you have communism. Right here, we have free market capitalism. And I think so long as that's intact, technology is just going to enhance those different systems. But Eric, I mean, I agree with you 100%, right? It is a risk. But I think it has to do more with the system of government you live under as opposed to the medium of exchange. I could be wrong, but at least that's how I try to think about it. But you're 100% right. That is happening and that is real. But team, I do have to cut you loose. But I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I really do enjoy doing these live streams and chatting with you all each night. If you enjoyed it, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button. We will be back here tomorrow night at 8:30. Potentially we will be down in Lower Manhattan again, or maybe we will even be in Dumbo, Brooklyn again. So feel free to join us tomorrow at 8:30. Wishing you all a wonderful Tuesday. Make sure you stay optimistic. Look alive, and don't get too pessimistic. So Eric, I appreciate you. Jay, oh, let's get away from that. Jay, appreciate you. John Kelly, NBA Elias, UniJ23, Brian Forrest, Line Sync, Sally. And there's always a bull market somewhere. You just need to know where to look. See you guys tomorrow.